I just wanted to talk a little bit about my decision to be child free. Now, I'm 44, and there is a lot that is said on this app around it as a subject, but I thought the thing that might be most helpful is to explain like some of the decision making around it and also how that journey is not always so linear. The reason why I'm talking about this is because I've got a paperback novel coming out today called This Is Fine, published by Penguin, and it looks at this topic of being child free and what nurture looks like when you don't have children, and maybe you do have siblings and nieces and nephews. When I was younger, I always assumed I would have kids, and I didn't really think about it particularly deeply. It's just that my cultural background is Indian, it's what my parents and their generation did, and I just assumed that I would get married to someone at some point and then we would have kids. And I just thought, yeah, of course, that's like what happens, right? I don't know that I really asked myself whether or not I wanted to be a parent, whether or not I thought I would be a good mother. It just seemed like that was the path that was open to me, or had to be open to me. And when I look back at in retrospect, I'm just really surprised of it because I don't come from like an overly traditional family, and I would say I'm not an overly traditional person. In my late 20s, I was sort of getting really upset about the fact that I hadn't really met anyone significant, I hadn't been in like a significant relationship for a while. And, that there was that whole pressure of, oh my God, I'm going to turn 30. I need to meet someone. I need to get married. It's never going to happen for me. I keep dating all of these fools. Why? And then I'd given up on dating, and I then ended up getting set up with a man by a mutual friend, and I thought it was going to be terrible, and it was not terrible. It was wonderful, and this person ended up being the person that I would marry. His name was Rob. Rob and I were very aligned on the same goals, like in terms of our ethics, in terms of our politics, in terms of how we wanted to raise a family. And kids was something that we spoke about almost immediately. But again, it wasn't like with any particular deep thought. It was just this sort of like unit and this family that we kind of wanted to build together. And that was just seen as like a natural progression as part of what we were supposed to do. And in effect, I couldn't really distinguish that from actually what we wanted to do. Who has read my work, especially my nonfiction, will know that Rob tragically passed away 10 years ago, and he had really major issues. He had chronic depression, and he also had a very crippling addiction that I didn't know about when we met and when we got married, and it was something that was revealed halfway through our marriage. Kind of didn't really talk very much about kids at this time, but during he had to stay in a psychiatric hospital for part of it. And during one of the stays, we had to have a conversation about whether or not we were going to be able to have kids together. And it was the most heartbreaking conversation I think that I've ever had, like ever. And it was the moment that we realized that though we loved each other deeply, and though kids had always been part of this like big dream, like this big idea that we had, that we were not going to be able to raise and have these kids together, and that actually Rob might not be able to do that himself because that was the severity and the extent of his addiction. Now, whether or not that would have changed based on his recovery and what his trajectory was like, I will never know. And in the last few months before he died, we were separated and we were talking about how we were going to save our marriage. And our marriage was really the thing that kind of had front and center. And I think the kids thing underpins some of it. And the reason I'm sharing all of this is because I've already written about it. And so I'm going to ask people to be considerate and kind in the comments. Now, he died, and it was the most devastating, the worst thing that had happened. But after he died, like life wasn't anything resembling like normal or functioning really for at least about a year or two. And when I was sort of like just even being able to think about things, and this would have been when I was roughly about maybe 37, I was seized with this idea that, yeah, maybe I could have kids and I'd do it alone, and, I'd adopt or I'd have kids via a donor. And that was when I had to get really intentional about why I wanted children and whether or not whether I was going to be a fit person to raise them. Really and truly, I think that's when it wasn't a definitive decision, but I was like, I don't think that this is going to be in my this is not for me. It's not just about raising a child alone, because I can imagine like people are going to comment about that, but it was about me as a potential mother and as a parent, and whether or not I could do that, or if I wanted to meet someone, right, in order to be able to have kids with them and obviously be in a functioning relationship. But because of the circumstances, I had to do that really deep work to ask myself whether this is something I wanted. And that was when I realized that it wasn't something that I wanted. People who have kids, who find them very joyful, who love them for whatever their reasons, right? Like some people's reasons are they had their own traumatic childhoods, and so children are a chance for them to start, afresh and to have unconditional love. All of that, that's your own business, right? But I knew that the reason why I had even thought about wanting to bring kids into the world was to create a life that would be its own person. And also, I wanted to think about the impact that it would have on me as a person. Like, what would it bring out of me, right? And when I sat down and thought about all of those things, I knew that I was not going to be the right person. When I turned 40, that solidified into a line of like, now I definitely know I don't want kids. And you could talk about biology and all of this shit, but that was when mentally I knew I definitely didn't want kids. And all of the reason why I'm sharing all of this with you is because it's to say that sometimes for some people, the journey isn't linear, right? And the moment that I realized, by the way, that I didn't want kids, was the moment that I was able to be so much more generous and loving and nurturing to the other kids in my lives, like, my friends and family and their kids. And it changed everything for me. It changed the motivation for why I might go on a date with someone. It changed, the things that I might need from a partner. It changed how expansive I felt and how generous I wanted to be with my own life and my own home in terms of how much I give. And when I think back to, my time with Rob, who I loved very much, but had we had children, I don't know that would have been the right decision. And the thing that you sometimes feel, especially at this age, is, what is your purpose? Because the majority of people around me have children and most of them are married. And I would say that while a lot of them get so much joy from their children in flashes and in moments, it's not like an everyday fucking joy fest. But I don't envy their lives. I don't look at their lives and I think that's what I want. There are sometimes when I witness like an interaction or the bond between, especially like a daughter and a mother. But then I go home and like I do my own thing and I have my own friends and family and I have my work and I have 100 other things that give me a sense of purpose. And it doesn't feel lonely. When I witness the loneliness in other parents because of how badly the society sometimes supports them, especially mothers, there is a part of me that feels a lot of compassion. It doesn't make me feel envy, And I think that by the time you get to my age, you understand that these things are not as black and white. And people who are trying to bend you to their cause in terms of, pressuring you to have children, who are telling you that your life is going to be empty and pointless without it, it's just not true. And in fact, most oftentimes, the people who are saying those things, respectfully, they're not happy in their own lives, or they lack such empathy and diversity in their own friendship circle that they cannot see what it is like for other people. And those are the people who are never going to understand what your life is like either. Anyway, that was a bit of an overshare, wasn't it?
I decided I wasn't going to have children when I was 17, and I just want to talk about it. I will never forget the exact moment of sitting in a little office in my high school doing my distance education studies of Australian politics, because they didn't offer it at my high school and it was year 12, and learning about climate change really properly for the first time from an article, might have been an essay or a speech from Bob Brown. And that was the moment that I decided I would never bring someone else into this world. I'm very much not against adoption and fostering, but not creating another carbon footprint. And the more I learnt about climate change an ecological impact over the next 20 years is has only imprinted that more and more and more for me. And I absolutely no longer live like the lowest carbon footprint life. I definitely did most of my 20s and early 30s, but it's probably not as bad as most people. And I do make, I'm conscious about it. So maybe you go and look at the car that I drive. It's a petrol car. It uses a lot of petrol, but I have justified that to myself because I'm not duplicating my carbon footprint, and I don't really do any air travel and all these other different little things. So there's never an unconscious moment. It's always method in my madness. And I have no real feelings about other people having kids, apart from maybe just being a little bit worried that they don't have a full understanding of the situation that they're bringing someone into on a really on an international kind of long-term perspective. So I love being child-free. I also honestly, I have physical stuff with it. The concept of someone else being inside my body, the concept of my body creating food for someone else makes me genuinely feel incredibly nauseous and uncomfortable. And I genuinely don't think I could physically go through with it. I probably would have a mental breakdown, I think. And so there's many reasons, but the core initial reason was that. And I cop it all the time from people. Oh, one day you'll change your mind. Oh, no. And my partner, as soon as he met me, I told him that that ain't happening with me. In my 20s, I told my dad that ain't happening with me. You're gonna have 4-legged granddaughters and that's it. And even had conversations with my partner of if at some point you decide that is something that you need to do, I absolutely would not have any issues with us moving on and him finding someone to do that with. I would never hold him back. I would never try to convince him otherwise. I would be completely happy and fine with that because it's not going to happen here. And I just see so much information about this online, and so many people have so many opinions. And I saw a little take yesterday saying that the women who are very outraged by child-free women are likely the women who maybe didn't make that decision consciously in their own lives, or didn't realize that they had the option to not make it consciously. And obviously I'm in Australia, so our contraception issues is very different from other places in the world. We have a lot of great privilege and access here. And I just want to second that, because I've been online and, sharing myself for 8 years or something. And the only hate I really get is from white women with 3+ little kids who are very, very offended by the independent and free and untethered lifestyle. I'm tethered to my dogs, but, untethered lifestyle that I have, and my ability to build this business and all of those kind of things. But that's why I'm child-free, and no one convinced me otherwise. If you want to, go ahead and waste your time and energy. If you need to do that, go ahead. I won't actually read it. So
I'm choosing to embrace a child-free, non-traditional life. And not that you ever have to give a reason for that, but these are my 5 biggest reasons for choosing to do so. Number 1 is that I want the freedom to design my own life. I don't want to be confined to where I live because that's where my kids go to school. I don't want to have to holiday in the only 6 weeks of the year because that's the only time you can go on holiday. Or if I just want to wake up early on a Saturday morning and go for a long walk or a run, I just want to be able to do that. Number 2 is financial freedom. Now, we all know that life is expensive. I don't know how people who have kids actually afford it. I paid over £2,000 a month to rent my flat. The thought of having to pay £2,000 in nursery fees or quit my job and not earn money so I can look after my child, it doesn't make any sense to me. The system is broken. That could be point 3. But also, I want to spend my money on me, Number 3 is that I really believe in redefining success. When I was growing up, it was considered successful to find a partner, get married, get a house, and have kids. Now, I don't think that is the case. And I don't think
we should measure success on the amount of children that you have. Number 4 is that I'm just not done living my own life to then prioritize someone else's. There are still so many places that I want to go, places I want to live, things I want to do. I don't want to have to give that up for someone else. I'm not done living my own life. And number 5, super transparently speaking, but I just don't think this world is that kind of a place that I would ever want to bring a child up in. Life is tough. You have to take things on the chin, and I would never want to force someone to take that on. And I guess number 6, bit of a bonus, but it's good for the environment. I would like to protect this world and still go and see all of its beauty. So yeah, I will not be bringing a child into this world for that reason as well. So yeah, call me selfish or whatever the other people on the internet want to call me, but I am just loving living life for me, prioritizing me and doing things my way. And I have so many friends who have all chosen to have kids, and they're all so wonderful. So if I ever wake up and fancy a day of hanging out with loads of kids, then
it's Saturday morning, and I'm going to tell you guys reason 1799 why I am so happy that I am 32 years old and I don't have any kids. It's Saturday, and I got out of bed at 12. Made me a little yogurt bowl, about to make me a little coffee. I'm gonna sit down and relax. I do have to go clean the car for Turo because it gets picked up at 3, but I mean, do I need another reason why I love being 32 years old and not having any kids? Seriousness, people always ask, when are you gonna guys have kids? Are you guys really not gonna have kids? Like, no, I don't know. I love my life right now. I love being selfish with my time. I love doing what I want to do whenever I want to do it. I'm just so happy with my life. No, in all seriousness, I really am. I love kids. I have plenty of nieces and nephews to take care of. It's no one's business why people or couples choose to not have kids or aren't having kids. I think I'm going to add just a little bit more. Oh my god. Oh my god. Happy Saturday, and now I'm going to go enjoy my child-free weekend.
I am 34 years old and I have been married for 9 years, and my husband and I decided not to have kids because one of our core values is freedom. Let me explain. When my husband and I started dating, we both fell in love with how independent we were and how dedicated we were to our careers and our ambition and our purpose and our devotion to our own individual happiness. So early on, I was 24 when we were dating. We decided that we were not interested in having kids. But I also knew that I am very young and I may change my mind. So I never made any definitive decision. I just said, yes, not having children sounds really, really nice, but I can't promise you that at 24. As time went on, we saw a lot of our friends having kids and my siblings having kids, and it reinforced the decision of not having kids for us because we saw just how much it changes your lifestyle. And my husband and I have an amazing life. Like, we do whatever we want. We've even lived in our own apartments in New York City while being happily married. And we've moved across the country from New York to LA. We bought a house in Seattle that we are now renting out to move back to LA because of work. And we are both able to be untethered and move based on our careers, based on what we want in life. Not to say that you can't do those things while having kids, but kids are expensive. And I don't know if we would be able to be homeowners in our 30s if we had kids. And I don't know if we would be able to travel as much as we do if we had kids. And we were both raised in the generation with immigrant parents who had to work so incredibly hard to just afford the bare minimum of the life that we both got to live. And we both felt neglected. I think that a child deserves to come into this world with parents who are fully excited and devoted to the child and putting the child's wants and needs first. The child deserves that. And until we are ready to do that for another human being, we choose to be child-free. So follow along if you're interested in the DINK lifestyle, which just means dual income, no kids, and see how we are living our life child-free.
If I would have known that I was going to be a single mother, I would have never had children.
And this is why I don't want to have any kids. I just don't. Because even though your chances of falling into single parenthood might be low, depending on your relationship status, the probability will never be zero. It's never zero. And that scares the absolute shit out of me.
I'm 52 and I'm child-free. I wanted to address something that has been brought up on a previous post I made about being child-free. And that is, if you don't want kids, what do you say to people? So it probably depends on who it is. If it's like your mom, you just gotta just be like, period. I don't want children, period. Mom, I'm sorry if that hurts your feelings. I'm sorry if that makes you sad that you're not gonna have grandkids. Period. I'd say that to my mom and dad. If it's a coworker, I am not interested in having children. Period. If they say, yeah, but you're going to change your mind. So, what are you doing this weekend, Betty? Okay, so what do you say to your friends? Well, if your friends are peer pressuring you to have children and you don't want to, they're your friends. Then you need new friends. And I highly recommend, if you don't want to have children, that you find older friends. A lot of my husband and my friends were like retired people because we have more in common. A lot of them still had kids, but they were grown up and empty nesters, and then off they go. And then you have a little bit more money than other people because you don't have children. So if you want to like go out for nice dinners and want to do things like that, then you have to have different friends than those with kids. Because they don't got no money. Or they don't have any money until the kids are like 18. And then if they go to college, they don't have any money until they're like 24. So that's my advice for you tonight.